And welcome to another episode of the Refined Peasants, and today is the day you have all been waiting for, because we are talking about Atlantis.
I'm excited.
So, let's start off...
Isn't that the place in Georgia?
That's Atlanta. Shut the fuck up.
No, just dropped the is.
So, let's start off. What do you guys know about Atlantis?
So it's
Not real.
Yeah,
it's a novel, not a novel. Who's it written by? Plato?
Plato.
That's what I thought.
It's based on a novel written by Plato.
Well, and he's quoting the story from a time. Is it Egypt?
So,
I think so.
Plato tells the story that he heard from his great-grandfather Solon, who heard it from a priest in Egypt.
Okay.
So he knew it from a guy who knew it from a guy who knew it from a guy who
No, he knew it from a
whose
guy
mother-
who knew it from a guy. He knew it from his great-grandfather.
Okay.
Um,
I haven't actually read it, so I guess I don't know the
Maybe
whole
Mike
story.
so it's part of, I think it's the Cretaeus is where he talks about it. Don't quote me on that. I'm not an expert on Plato. But he is where we get most of our modern conception of the ancient city, the ancient empire, really, of Atlantis. So we get the major description. It's beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which would be the Strait of Gibraltar, which is this little narrow gap in the Mediterranean Sea between Spain and Africa. Yeah. It's off to it'd be the west of there. And so he tells this story, and it's essentially of a city, or a capital city of an empire. So this Atlantis isn't just the city that we've all heard about. It's an empire that spans the entire globe
Okay.
in his tale. And the capital city is what the focus is. That's the one that gets sunk and destroyed by earthquakes and floodwaters.
Okay.
So it's this city of demigods too, essentially. All the Atlanteans are the sons and daughters of Poseidon, which is if you're not familiar, Poseidon is the ancient god of the oceans, of the weather, and of earthquakes in Greek mythology. But it's a 5-ring city, 3 of land, 2 of water. So it's a target, like the traditional red target, red, white, red, white.
Right.
But this city is supposed to be so it's literally inhabited by demigods. Their patron saint is Poseidon. They are supposedly leagues ahead of just everybody.
Okay.
And they have spanned the entire known world. Atlantis is the empire to this Egyptian who is telling Solon, who is then telling Plato.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in their hubris, it is actually kind of similar to the story of Babel. They think they grow too powerful. Their power too closely approaches that of the gods, and Poseidon says, "No, not having this."
Okay.
And that is when Atlantis is struck down by earthquakes and floodwaters, and is sank to the bottom of the ocean, never to be seen again. So in Plato's tale, so you have to understand that Plato's writings are in a political context, and he is trying to convince Athens of democracy. And in Plato's tale, Atlantis actually went to war with Athens. Just the city-state of Athens. We're not talking all Greece. We're not talking, just the city-state of Athens, and Athens won. Now, to me, that's clearly, he's just telling a story, because if you've got an empire that spans the entire globe, you're not running from just Athens. Know what I'm saying? But I'm a little less intrigued by the actual telling of Plato and more intrigued by the telling from the original Egyptians. So I did a lot of research on this, and it's actually really hard to find. The closest thing you can find to something that resembles Atlantis is this Isle of the Egg, which is an island that's not given a specific location, but is the dawn of man.
Okay.
And another interesting fact, the priest that told Solon the original story was actually a priest of this creator deity. I can't remember her name. I think it was Nien, like Nien.
Okay.
But it's a priest. It's a creator goddess.
Okay.
And that's it's not where I drew the correlation, but the Isle of the Egg is essentially what some ancient Egyptians believed to be the kind of like their Garden of Eden. This is where the gods created men. This is where they perfected men, and men spread from there. And it was an island that was not similarly, but it was also destroyed. And I just found it, when in my research, I found it interesting that it's this creator goddess who is telling Solon the tale, and then you've got the Island of the Egg in Egyptian mythology. Now, the Island of the Egg is admittedly pretty eccentric, even in ancient Egyptian mythology. It's a difficult thing to find. You know, I Googled forever. But I am of the opinion that Atlantis is, if not an actual telling of an actual empire and an actual city, the heart of the story is true. That there was a at least more advanced civilization that existed prior to the Greeks, prior to the Minoans, and prior to the Egyptians, which would make it a...
That'd be several thousand BC, correct?
Yes. So the ancient Egyptians go back to about 5,000 BC. It's about 7,000 years old. The Sumerians are approximately there too. I think they're about
a little bit before.
Yeah,
right?
That might be 1,000 years earlier.
But they're not an empire, right?
Sumeria had an empire. It's a modest. Most of Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran.
Oh, okay, I got you.
It's we're not talking like Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan
but
empires,
a modest,
but
like, state. I guess
especially for the time. This was Sumeria is the first great civilization. They're the first writing system. They're the first. They've got the oldest story ever recorded, which is this epic of Gilgamesh. There's a lot of different. If you're a fan of ancient astronaut theory, then you've got the Anunnaki and their myths and stuff about that. Like, they've got a very monotheistic culture. They seem to be
does?
Sumer. Yes.
They're mono. I didn't know.
Oh no, not mono. I'm sorry. I apologize. I meant polytheistic.
Okay, I was like, really?
No. There was no monotheism except for the Jews at this point,
right?
Who would have came out of the remnants of Sumer. Would have been Abraham. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Ur should have been a remnant of the Sumerian Empire. So, anyway, like I said, I am of the belief that if this is not an actual verbatim 100% objective truth, that this is a story passed down by men and women that carries the spirit of the truth. That this is still true, even though there may not have been a city that sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And I'm not talking about I'm not talking about the Disney movie. I'm not talking about how they had aircraft that flew around.
He's not Hollywoodifying it.
No. What I'm talking about a civilization that's capable of sailing the globe, navigating the entire globe, from Greece to North America, from Greenland to Antarctica.
Okay. So,
and colonizing too. I do believe they colonized, because I think the ancient Egyptians were a colony of Atlantis.
Just like a higher up colony?
No, just a colony.
Okay.
And the remnants, after Atlantis was destroyed, the remnants of Atlantis some of them would have came here, or came to Egypt, and basically started what we know as the Old Dynasty.
So, whenever ancient writings say the world, like, at least in, like, the Roman sense and in the Egyptian sense, they don't actually mean, like, Earth. They mean, like, so, like, you see a lot of this in the Bible. Like, when they're quoting, like, the world in the New Testament.
They mean the region.
They mean, like, the Roman world.
Right.
They're not talking about even, like, China or sub-Saharan Africa. They're talking about, like, mostly, like, Europe, Rome, and some parts of the Middle East. So, do you think that's what that could be?
Possibly, but no, I don't actually personally believe that, and I'll get into why I don't. Do you have anything to say so far, Nick?
While he's talking.
Yeah. I have to disagree. Simple facts is, it's hard already, especially in ancient times, to hold an empire that would stretch that big. Think about it. Supply lines are going to be thin. It takes how many months to cross the Atlantic?
So on a sailboat, it would take about 3 months, I think. When you know where you're going.
A couple months, yeah.
So, I mean, just 3 months. I mean, first off, word has to travel that fast. So say an uprising began, you have to send word. There's 3 months. And then there's another 3 months, so it's 6 months of travel time total, and I just don't see it. That's a lot of resources that, and what, there's supposed to be an island?
Well, no, so this is just their capital city. The city we all know and love is just the capital. It is not just...
So where do they originate from?
Nobody knows. I mean, so they are, in the Greek myth and in the Egyptian myth, they are both supposedly quasi-deity beings. They are demigods. They are something more than.
Well, you can always convince.
You know what I'm saying?
Convince people of that.
I mean, if you've got high enough technology and you've literally roamed the globe, of course you could.
Yeah, well, so
You know, you show a Greek, Arabian, or I guess it would be Greek fire, but it was actually made by the Ottomans. But anyway, you show them gunpowder,
right.
and you know that's fucking sorcery to them. They don't know.
So the ability to sail across the world is actually a pretty good bit of technology, because at that point you still have to read the stars to know where you're going.
Right, but it's not impossible.
No, we know that at least the Mayans had some capability of it, and a bunch of the Aztecs and stuff had some capability to read the stars.
Who's the ones who settled Hawaii, Nick?
Samoans.
So they had the capability much later.
So the problem is the Samoans weren't traveling very far. They were island hoppers. So they weren't traveling as far as you're saying. Greenland.
Didn't we have another podcast where he was on the island hopping's a bunch of shit? You island hopped across the Pacific?
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of nothing.
The Pacific has a bunch of American Samoa is just a bunch of dots. It's like Hawaii.
I would still like to see the landless mass between there and Hawaii.
But you're
talking, and then between Hawaii
you're talking
and
about
South
from
America.
Greenland to Antarctica. That is a very, very, very hard
just sail
thing
along
to
the
do.
coast.
Which coast?
Either. Doesn't matter. If you could sail that far, does it matter which coast you're using?
But how do you know Antarctica is a thing?
So I'm gonna give you the evidence for what supports at least a seafaring culture capable of navigating the globe, if not colonizing it. Right? So, have you heard of the Perry-Reese map?
No.
Perry-Reese map, Nick, have you heard of it? It was a map written by a Turkish admiral. Or,
Cartographer?
No, he was an admiral, but what do you call the act of making a map?
Cartography.
So, yeah. He made a map of the world in dates to 1596. But in his own handwriting on the map, he tells us that the map it's actually a conglomeration of several different maps that he has gathered throughout his life, some of which date back several hundred, if not a couple thousand years. Now, what's interesting about this, so it's 1596. We all know North and South America exist, right? The continents themselves. Now, we don't know how far they go. We don't know what for instance, the western seaboard of South America looks like. No one's made it that far. No one's mapped the Congo. No one's been to Antarctica. Clear as day on this map, Antarctica's right there. Below Africa, below South America, right there. And it's not just the shoreline of Antarctica. It is the shoreline of Antarctica when it did not have the mile-thick ice caps that it has now. We only know what it looks like without the mile-thick ice caps because of technology.
So what was this map called?
The Perry-Reese map.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I don't have a picture in front of me.
The Perry-Reese map has been officially dated. The map he made is officially dated to 1596.
But we don't have...
Indisputed.
We don't have what he used to make the map, because he said it's a compilation.
Nope.
Oh, well, that's just convenient, isn't it?
But there's no way he could have known... Antarctica wasn't discovered until, the 1880s. There is no way. And even when it would have been discovered in the 1880s, it would have been covered in ice. But he's got the Amazon River. It's mapped out. He's also got
I think
two
at that
other.
point they've gone in. I think at that point, what's his name? Is it Magellan who circumnavigated, or am I thinking of Amerigo Vespucci?
Vespucci.
I'm still trying to figure out how to spell this.
Someone, I think it was Ferdinand Magellan. I think at this point had already circumnavigated. Like,
Yeah, gone clearly.
went to the Philippines, like around the south of South America, went back up, and then across to the Philippines, Asia, China, and all that.
Okay.
I think. I can fact check that. But
Yeah, I would.
Nick,
I would
if you-
be interested in fact checking that
Okay,
because
I'll
at
do
least
that,
he
you
for
keep
sure,
going.
he for sure did not discover Antarctica, or at least he didn't report that he did. Which that's the thing that everybody. So there are several interesting details about this Perry Reese map. So the biggest and the most obvious one is Antarctica without an ice sheet. So the last time Antarctica would have been without an ice sheet would have been a minimum 4,000 BC, a maximum of 13,000 BC. Now, if you've watched any of my podcasts on this, or on any of this, 13,000 BC, what does that oddly correlate to?
The Younger Dryas.
Yes, where I think that these ancient civilizations that had been there on Earth were suddenly destroyed.
Y'all don't even know how you read this map.
Let me see. Let me see if you got the right one. Oop. So I think that's
took him-
Antarctica.
So it was Magellan. I didn't. Oh, whoops, he's Portuguese. Whoopsies. But
Nobody cares.
yeah, and he did it from 1519 to 22. It took him 3 years.
So they did sail around the world, but
Right.
he did not report discovering Antarctica. He for sure didn't navigate the Congo, or not the Congo, the Amazon, and map it out.
Well, no one's done
Well,
that
Cortez may have done that.
Not at this point. No one had
yet.
mapped
There's still no
the Amazon
there's
River.
still no full map of the Amazon River.
Do you have?
This
Nick,
is
did you
not-
find the projection? I
I just can't read what the hell it is. Like I don't know what all that is. It's
Is that the projection?
Yes.
No, this is the Paris region. I don't.
Well, yeah. So like a map like this is called the projection. What in the hell is this? All right. Anyway, y'all keep talking. I'm gonna look at this.
Go ahead.
So it's pretty phenomenal. Like I said, he's got the Amazon River mapped out across South America. His map, his shoreline of South America is actually more accurate than it gets because he later goes on and updates. He creates updated maps with updated information from the Spanish, and they're actually worse. They're worse than what he originally does here, as far as the shoreline of South America. So it's pretty astonishing. And I mean, it's not even a matter of belief. He for sure maps the coastline of Antarctica without the mile thick of ice that is currently there.
I don't know where you can see that on that map.
So I'm not an expert at reading it. I just have seen it. They point it out, and it's like so it's not just the ancient alien people who are like, that's Antarctica. Like, there are people who are like, that's Antarctica, that is, like, scientists who are like, that's Antarctica without the ice sheet. It's in the right position, it's got the right coordinates, and I don't know how he mapped it without the ice sheet. That doesn't seem possible.
He so
Is it
the only thing
Australia?
we have apparently is a fragment, and it's in between. So it's the Pacific Ocean. That's what that open space in the middle is, and that's where you see like the western part of Africa, and you see the Amazon rainforest in South America. You see parts of
I can see it.
North
I can see it
America,
now.
and the very bottom of that map is supposed to be Antarctica.
Yes.
If that's the best he's got, I don't know. Okay, so just real question: what source is he going to have that's going to survive like 5,000 years?
So that's pure speculation, but it's going to be stone tablets or oral cartographers
Were
at the
you
time.
using papyri at that time?
Yeah. So the Library of Alexandria, and so the thing about cartography is you don't always explore where you're cartographing. You take older maps and you update them. Like that's a pretty standard thing in this time period. So the Library of Alexandria could have had maps that dated back that the original of that map dated back, 10,000 years, whatever.
Right.
Not saying that it did, just could, and they have just copied it every 20 years onto new papyrus.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So
No, I understand. So we've got a similar thing with, like, Bible manuscripts. It's like, we don't have
Right.
the originals, we just have the copies of the
Right.
But the originals would have dated back to... Yeah, I get you. I get what you're
Right,
saying.
so like no one can read the Dead Sea Scrolls, but we have copies of what's supposedly on the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think that, and so the interesting thing is it's not just his map. There was another, I can't remember his name, but there is another map that goes into a little bit more detail on South America that also shows Antarctica. That was written, I want to say like 2 or 3 years, or drawn 2 or 3 years later. And then there's and it shows a part of the map that you can't see. Now, there is, of course, the possibility that he had the Perry Reese map and was just drawing a portion of it that we don't have anymore.
Yeah.
But there are like 6 or 7 of these ancient maps written about 1600 to, I'm going to say 1500, all in this same 100-year span that all show interesting features that they should have no business knowing, according to modern maps. And like I said, when Perry Reese continued making maps, and as information came from Spain about what South America looked like, his outline actually got worse. It got less accurate to what we know today. Because, I mean, if you've seen maps, I mean, we've all seen early maps of North America. Like, Florida looks like crap. Like, no one's actually measuring this out precisely. This isn't an exact science. This is, I'm drawing you roughly where you're going to be going.
Right.
So, my opinion is that this Ottoman admiral had access to ancient maps, and for somehow these ancient peoples, at least 4,000 BC up to 13,000 BC, because that's when Antarctica didn't have the ice sheet.
How do you even obtain these?
I don't know. I mean, so he is in the Ottoman Empire, which is the oldest known civilization on Earth.
You can always guess what's
So-
under the ice.
Huh?
You can always guess what's under the
There's
ice.
no way. The only way we know what's under the ice is because we've got technology that pierces the ice, that can get through it. Like, if you look at a block, like, I don't think you understand. Like, if you look at a picture of Antarctica in the dead of winter, you can't imagine what the coastline looks like without ice, because it's just ice. And again, this is a mile thick.
I can take a pretty good guess under that ice.
Yeah,
Probably
there's
rock.
land, but not the shape of that land.
So, if you were to tell me, like, was there good cartographers before him? Yeah. I mean, the Vikings went to South America, and they mapped it pretty well. Went to North America, mapped it really well. More accurate than we did in the 1400s.
But again, they would have had to map Antarctica without an ice sheet.
But how does... But I'm just so confused. How does this guy have like 10-something sources, not share it to anybody? And you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, so cartography is a real cherished skill at this point.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, other people may have just been working on other things. You know, who's got to work on
Well, how the hell does this thing even preserve for that long?
what the
How does the
map
original
itself?
map? You know, like I'm saying.
I mean, so in
like 5,000 years is a
again,
long
you
time.
realize that this map is wearing out, and you're like, okay, now it's time to go get it copied. You know, you don't have
It's the same you do
50
with, same as
people.
you would do with books. You see the books are getting old, run down, they're rotting, you would copy
But
them.
even with the books, like, shit changes. You know what I'm saying? Like, word
But again,
variations, you know, like, how does...
it is astonishingly accurate when you see the actual outline of Antarctica without the ice sheet laid over his map. It is pretty astonishing. Like, honestly, if you saw the overlay, Nick, you would not look me bold in the face and tell me that he just guessed. If he just guessed that I need this motherfucker to pick me lottery numbers.
So
like-
who says it's without the ice sheet?
Geologists. Like, people who have seen what Antarctica looks like without the ice.
Yeah, so they've got, like, technology that It's
No,
almost
no,
like
I
infrared. They
know.
can
Right.
see where
So
they can see through it.
if all the ice from Antarctica went away, it's got one mainland and then two islands. Essentially, what it is, and eventually they'll come to form one island and then one big mainland. That's Antarctica, without ice.
Okay.
So that's what we're saying. He's seeing. We're seeing one big.
Well,
He's
maybe
seeing
not
one
seeing.
coastline.
Maybe not seeing.
So
right?
we're seeing
Right,
We're-
he's drawing it. No one's saying he'd been to Antarctica.
Okay.
We're saying that
So
he is drawing from other source materials that somehow showed this particular coastline of Antarctica to an astonishing point of accuracy with no ice sheet. Which dates the source material to a minimum of 4,000 years ago and a maximum of 13,000 years ago.
Well, I don't imagine it would be too uncommon. So you got to keep in mind, before the British built it, there is no Suez Canal. So you're going like up around to South Africa today, and then back up to go to like Asia and stuff, or walking there. But for boat, that's how you'd have to go.
The map,
I don't see it being too unrealistic that somebody might have stumbled upon some fucking ice.
So the
Just
thing
like, oh,
is,
fuck, ice.
it also in the map.
But then, and mapped it when it's just a barren, ice-covered wasteland?
Yeah, the map also shows.
And again,
Antarctica
it is covered
connected
without ice.
It's connected to Antarctica is connected to South America, which continental drifts happen all the time. Don't get me wrong, but that should have happened millions of years ago when PNG.
I don't know. I don't think the south tip of South America is that far from Antarctica.
It's not. They're not connected.
They're not connected, but I don't think it's that far.
Oh, I don't think that. So, like, the ice sheet is not that far from the tip of Africa, and it's really, like, you might be able to see it from the bottom port of South America. Like, I don't know what country that would be, so it'd be, like, Chile and, like, the southern part of Chile.
Argentina? No,
No.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know South American geography, but if I'm willing to bet that you could see it. I know that penguins at least make the migration, and they're not big migratory animals.
Right. A lot of penguins beach on South America and then swim through
Right.
orca-infested waters.
Right, yeah. It's not
So-
it's not a long swim.
The point, so that's my whole point about bringing this up, is that there was at least 4,000 years ago. So even if you want to say it was the Egyptians or it was the Sumerians, they were capable of circumnavigating the world. And not just circumnavigating it once, but mapping it.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I can't read this map. I don't know how. I can tell where he's. Well, I'd like to say I know what he's getting at. But they're saying this map is accurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen the overlay. When they make the map see-through, and then they overlay it with an actual diagram of Antarctica.
It might just be the
It's
way the
phenomenal.
projection is, and it's just I'm not used to seeing it this way. But it just looks all kinds of weird.
It's also got the Caribbeans.
Well, and you're also got to realize you're not looking at a full map either. This isn't a map that's spread out before you in a nice rectangle.
He's also
you
got
know
Yeah,
this.
it's not the Mercator
He's also got
projection.
this all weird. So it's not like a map how we would read it, where we see South America, North America, Africa, Europe. It's slanted. So it's reading like I'm reading like this. This is South America.
Well, so one
this
of
is
the
Africa. This is Antarctica.
one
this
of the
is Caribbean.
theories was proposed by Charles Hapgood that the only way this could happen isn't that he never saw isn't that it's 4,000 to 13,000 years old. It's continental displacement, which his book on continental displacement. We're gonna get a little bit in the weeds. His book on continental displacement theory was actually the foreword was written by Albert Einstein, and he supported the theory. And basically what that is continents can move, like the crust of the Earth can move very fast, very randomly.
Well, it's tectonic plates.
And people have used, like, so you know the mammoth that got found with grass and wildflowers still in its mouth, but it was frozen to the bone in Russia? People use that as kind of evidence of continental displacement. Like, it just, like, the Russian continent just shifted.
So when it's turned like how you would read a normal map, I can see, clearly that's Africa, that's South America. Where the fuck is Antarctica supposed to be? Is that
On the right side.
That tiny little island?
I would not think so.
Because there's South America. Is it that? Is it that right there?
No, it would be this part down here.
Oh, okay. Now, okay, I can see where Antarctica is now. But why is it still connected?
I mean, so it could just be how he drew the map. It could be. I don't know. I don't know the guy. Like, I don't know what you want from me. I'm not that old.
That's kind of what it's looking like. It's still connected. I'm not saying this is his map.
Okay. So this is kind of somebody who's taken the same things and...
I think.
You know, and I'm not saying the map is perfect either. What I'm saying is what it shows of Antarctica seems to be pretty accurate and only capable of being seen by somebody who was last seen it without ice. Which would insinuate that at the very least, and again, you don't even have to believe in Atlantis. You just have to believe that ancient Egyptians could have maybe sailed down the coast of Africa and seen it. We don't know exactly when Antarctica's ice sheet was last there. Or last missing from that point, you know? So if you want to say it's 4000 BC, Egyptians were around. Egyptians were pretty good sailors. Egyptians maybe sailed down the coast of Africa and see Antarctica. Okay. I don't think so.
Okay, so we're
because
saying...
Egyptians, there's nothing in Egyptian maps.
So we're going to say that little hump is in Antarctica, right?
I believe so, yes.
That's Antarctica without any ice. There's no hump. It's just landmass.
That's a very zoomed out picture. Antarctica is huge.
I thought Antarctica was really small.
No, it's not.
Like just the land.
No.
Maybe just the land. I mean, it's significantly smaller than the ice sheet, but...
So
I think the Perry Reese map, along with... and I really wish I could remember. I'm going to listen to it just this morning. But there's about 6 or 7 other maps that also show really odd... Like, there's a lot of oddities, and they mostly contend around Antarctica, or that the northern ice sheets aren't exactly what they're supposed to be either. So, like, the ice sheet on Greenland isn't, like, exactly what it's supposed to be, and so on. And personally, I think that this is evidence of a civilization that was capable of circumnavigating the world. And if you look at it, if you don't believe the Egyptians, you believe the Egyptians never reported that they were able to circumnavigate the world.
I don't think that you have...
Never documented it.
Mm-hmm.
People documented everything. But, did it? I lost my train of thought. Can't remember what it was.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. If you were a civilization that could had the technology to circumnavigate the world, what would that be? 5,000 years before anybody else could? That you're a technological powerhouse, assuming you didn't only upgrade your ship's mechanics. You know what I'm saying?
So,
I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think you have enough based on that map to make any leaps.
Guess when the last time Antarctica and South America were connected?
No idea.
40 million years ago. And that looks pretty well like the map, does it not? Connected to South America, has the huge hump. So if we go back to the Perry Reese map, it's connected to South America, it's got the huge hump.
Yeah, but that's not a huge hump there. I wish we could show the picture of the map itself.
Yeah.
Just Google Perry Reese map and you'll see what we're talking about.
One of us will put in the comments how to spell it.
Yeah, because it's weird. But he is Ottoman. Like,
P-R-I-I.
I think this is evidence of Atlantis. Or at least a civilization that embodies the spirit of Atlantis. This ancient civilization that had technology that was way before anything else. You know, so the Minoans were probably the scraps of the Atlanteans. The Egyptians, probably the scraps. The Sumerians, probably the scraps. Like...
Okay. And you're basing this off this map?
Well, I'm basing this off of several different cultures reporting identical stories. And then similarities between different cultures that span huge areas. So, like, you've got pyramids in Sumeria, you've got pyramids in Egypt, you've got very large and very advanced structures built on Crete. Like, if you've seen Minoan civilization, like, they were the equivalent of the Romans just in the Bronze Age. Like, they've got running water, they've got sewer systems, they've got a lot of things that after the Bronze Age collapsed, which no one knows what caused the Bronze Age collapse, except I think there's a few Egyptian and Middle Eastern references to the Sea People, and nobody knows who those are. Some people speculate they're Vikings. Some people speculate they're the remnants of Atlantis. I don't know why the remnants of Atlantis would destroy the other remnants of Atlantis, but whatever. But the Minoan architecture is really quite phenomenal. Like you look at it and it looks Roman. In skill, in levels of craftsmanship, in just attention to detail. And like I said, they had things like, Sparta did not have running water for a couple thousand years after the Minoans.
So how do you get this massive civilization that's able to go across the globe, and we have no evidence?
It just disappears.
Archaeologically, period.
And then,
how do they just gone? Like, even Rome didn't just completely collapse. Like, the Colosseum.
Rome is also not 13,000 years old. So
that's true, but the pyramids are like, what, 7?
No.
5,000?
So the Egyptians would have been... I think 6 to 7,000 years. You're probably right. But these are also large stone structures built in a desert. And anytime you do find pyramids, most people are like, well, these aren't ancient. Like, these don't date back to 13,000 years. These date to the last people to touch them. So if Nick builds a barn, and then 100 years later I come along, and I see a barn, and I'm like, hey, great, I don't have to build a barn. I'm going to use this barn. Then 200 years later, an archaeologist comes along, and he finds, my shoe, the remnants of my shoe left. And he dates that. He's going to be like, oh, this barn is 200 years old, when in fact it's 300 years old. He just didn't look for his stuff.
Yeah, but how do you do that? Like, how would you tell it was actually like a 300-year-old barn or whatever, 400-year-old?
You would find something from him.
Okay, so if we can't find anything
assuming
from him,
nothing decayed, then to the best of your knowledge, it's 200 years old, but it's not.
But I think most of the time, what we've got is Nick built the goddamn barn, and we know it. But if we think it's older, we can date like the stone, the wood. We can date all that.
Well, you can't date stone.
We can. That's how we know how old the Epic of Gilgamesh is. Because what's the tablet?
But the Epic of Gilgamesh isn't stone. It's clay.
Well, we've got the first thing we found is, what's it called? It might be the West Carpopyrus, and
I know what you're talking about.
It's how we found out about it, and forever we thought that was what they wrote it on, and then we found out later, like, no, there's clay that predates it. Like, we can date the stone, we can date the clay, we can date the engravings. Yeah. So it's sort of like we know that the Sphinx used to have paint on it.
Right. We also, I don't think we know, but we're pretty sure that because of the proportions, it used to not be a human head.
Well, it's got, like, fragments of, like, old paint on it that just eroded away.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So we know for sure it was painted at one point.
It's not like paint, like we would use paint. It's not lead paint or whatever. Yeah, it's
powder.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of herbs, grind it out. It's kind of like how we know...
So they just took a bunch of dried... Well, it is the desert. So just a bunch of dried up fucking berries and smushed it.
A little bit of water, too.
That's how you get any color.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
But like, it's how we know like the pyramids used to be white and had a golden top.
Well, we know that because they told us that.
Yeah.
And then somehow... Whoever the fuck stole the top of it? Because if you actually see what the supposed capstone of the pyramid was, like how big it was supposed to be made out of solid fucking gold, how the hell did you get that down?
It's a great question.
Like, that's some fucking alien shit.
I would assume you just.
I guess at some point when the limestone covering, you could have just taken 5 dudes and pushed it, and it would just. But anyway, I think that, and again, so even if we found ancient structures, most archaeologists are just going to find what already. So let's go with the barn thing. I'm 500 years older than you guys, and I build a city.
Okay.
Fuck you guys.
Okay.
And then I die, and the city, gets empty. Something catastrophic happens. A plague comes through and wipes everybody out. 500 years go by. You guys are looking for a place to call home, and you come across a city that's just sitting there, empty. Like, why are you gonna go grab rocks, carve them, and stack them? Like, it's right here.
Because by the time, probably doesn't.
There is no reason to put unnecessary labor and work into building a city if there's one already there that's empty.
But if it's crumbled down to ruins.
I mean, so if it was crumbled down to ruins, maybe. But then wouldn't you just wouldn't you just rebuild it?
You have to redo everything. Yeah, I mean, you probably. Have to
Maybe not. Maybe the foundation stones are still good.
That's about it. You have to redo everything.
That's still a significant portion of the work that's already done.
You're trying to overcomplicate this on purpose. Shut the fuck up.
I'm just saying, like,
continue.
Well, so the point is, it actually goes to a point. Like, so even if you come across just the foundation stones, how much time does that save you? Carving foundation stones, the heaviest,
most labor-intensive part.
Yeah, right. You still have the foundation. Why are you going to build a whole new foundation when there's one right here?
Well, so...
and then, so you guys build on top of that, or you guys inhabit the already built city. You guys, it makes a trading post, or it makes whatever it is you guys make it into. And then all of your shit, so one, it's been 500 years. My shit might be rot by now. May not be a lot left of me to begin with. Then you guys come in, and for the next 1,000 years, are doing your thing. So then, 1,000 years from you guys, the archaeologists come in and be like, wow, this was a trading hub.
Well, how long does it take for bones to turn to dust?
It depends on the environment. But, I mean, it's not just turning to dust that you have to worry about. You have animals, you have... Well, I guess it'd be mostly animals or elements. But, like, a lot of stuff... Like, the reason archaeological discoveries are so significant is because the odds of finding an arrowhead are just astronomically small.
But I'm saying, like, you're basing this that everything was just...
No, not everything.
Gone.
Not everything. Stonehenge, probably not.
Turned to dust. There's no evidence left behind. Well, then, for all we know, you never existed.
Yes. But that doesn't mean that I don't exist. Or I didn't exist. So just because...
But we don't have any evidence that you did.
But just because you can't find the evidence that I did doesn't mean that I didn't. And any
well,
evidence...
Then you can just say
any evidence that I do bring to you... Any evidence that I do bring to you... You guys are like, no, it's actually made by these people because these are.
Well, according to the evidence, that's what the evidence at least point towards.
Yeah,
right?
Carbon dating.
I'm not dogging on anyone who doesn't believe in Atlantis. I'm telling you why I believe in Atlantis and why I believe that there was an ancient civilization or multiple of humans that conquered the fucking globe and then were wiped out by something resembling Noah's flood.
So I'm just telling you that the claim is not met at all by the evidence, just flat out. I mean, that's a pretty big claim you're making.
So we've got the geological features of the Sphinx. Robert Schoch and those people who have covered, like, look, the Sphinx has erosion patterns on the wall that are consistent with being built 10 to 12,000 years ago. But nobody cares because some pharaoh came through, carved his face on it, and built a stela saying, "I did it." Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that geology doesn't lie, and people do.
So here's the thing.
Especially people who think they're
Robert
a god.
Schoch's not the only geologist.
He's not the only geologist.
And he's the only one saying that this...
He's not
the only one.
He's not the only one.
He's one of the very few who are saying that, yes, that is for sure water erosion on the Sphinx. And there's one problem.
Water and
they actually know... So there's a line in the... So the Sphinx is... It's not a rectangle, right? So part of it opens up, right? So it's like this. Does that make sense?
Like the pause?
Yes. No. So the enclosure. So instead of being like this around the Sphinx, being a perfect rectangle, there's a causeway with water. It's parallel to it on one side. They dug that out later when they built the causeway. And the erosion time is the same. Well, how can the erosion time be the same when they had an extra?
So they're saying they dug like a man-made river beside the Sphinx, and the overflow from that is what caused the water erosion.
No. So what I'm telling you, there's a causeway. I can't remember how many feet. It's a ways away from the Sphinx. It's not like miles, but it's like a couple hundred yards. It goes right into. So is it Khafre? Is that who built it? I don't remember. It's been a while since.
Khafre or Khufu or one of them.
Yeah. All of their stuff is right there, too. And it dates to basically the same time. But the Sphinx enclosure used to be a rectangle. Now, it is
tapered
on one side.
Like a keyhole.
Right. But the erosion is the same. Why would that be if why would
So
the
how do we know it
erosion
used to be rectangle?
Because
If it is now...
Because they built the causeway after they built the Sphinx. So they made the opening parallel with... They made one of the sides of the enclosure to the Sphinx parallel with the causeway.
How much later?
Well, see, we don't even have like a solid date for the Sphinx. And to be honest with you, no reason. It's not that impressive of a structure compared to the rest of Egypt. Like, there are 3 other great pyramids.
No, that's true, and then some of the honestly, the Sphinx is not even a great sculpture compared to some of the other sculptures in Egypt. Now, it's a lot older than some of the other sculptures in Egypt. Like, so wasn't that temple? There's a temple that's carved into the mountainside.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's phenomenal. Like, jeez, Mary and Joseph. No wonder the Hebrews came to Egypt. That place looks lit. Like, I would come there too.
150 an hour, 1550 an hour. That's what you get.
I guess so.
But that's the geologic
I guess another
thing to shock.
Another thing that comes up too is like these civilizations, so like Sumeria and Egypt, they seem to just sprout out of fucking nowhere, there's not. So humans have this clean idea of evolution. You've got the chimp on one end, the human on the other, and I'm not saying this is it's the same thing. But in the slow transition of species in between us, right?
Yeah.
And that's what everybody kind of wants with civilization, too, is so you get, you get agriculture, which we still can't pinpoint a date for, because, as far as geological record goes, or the archaeological record, there's wild plants, and then all of a sudden there's fucking farms. It's as if it was overnight. All of this happens pretty quickly. And it could be a problem with our own measuring of time, but it's there's no civilization period. We're roaming the world, hunting and being hunted by animals, and then all of a sudden we're building huge pyramids, huge structures, masterful artistry. Like I said, if you see that, is it Luxor?
No idea.
Oh, fuck, I really think it's Luxor. If you see some of the sculptures, it's just phenomenal. And the idea that, 100 years before that they were doing nothing, it's kind of crazy. And it's almost like, and the mythologies will tell you that it's because 100 years ago we didn't know how to do this. And then a bunch of deities came in, taught us how to do all this, and that's why it appears out of nowhere, because we just learned it. And it was on a whim. We didn't have to learn it on our own over this slow progression of technology. We just got it.
I think
Abu's symbol temple in Egypt.
Show us a picture. I just want to make sure it's the right one.
It's the one where he's carved into the mountains.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Well, that's a bad picture of it because there's 3 dudes.
Yeah.
Sitting that's better.
So there's technically supposed to be 4.
Yeah.
But one of them broke.
But,
it depicts, I guess, Ramesses II or Ramesses the Great. It's the family lineage. I don't know.
But I think the bad assumption here is that technology is linear.
Well, technology is incremental.
I don't think so. I think technology is exponential, and I think, honestly, both ways. And I'll tell you why. We were 100 years from being stuck with our 2 feet on this earth to the fucking moon. Okay?
Yeah.
We learned to fly, and not even 100 years later, we got to the moon.
That's true. And back then, we were probably a lot more dedicated, because we didn't want the saber-toothed tiger killing us.
Well, think about this. So, domestication is pretty easy if you know how to...
No.
So, how
the domestication of dogs is a miracle of biology.
So, when we domesticated the chicken, it took maybe a generation of chickens.
Right, so
here's the thing.
Chickens...
Depends on the
bison.
It depends
well,
on
some
the
animals you can't domesticate. You will never be able. I shouldn't say never. Not in one human lifetime. You are never going to domesticate a zebra. You could put them in a lab, a zoo, whatever. Never going to happen.
So a lion can't be domesticated. It can be tamed, but it still will kill you.
Predators are infinitely harder.
Yeah,
I would say, because they're just going to look at why am I taking orders from my food?
Cats are the hardest.
But we did cats.
Not really. So even domesticated cats are they'll become independent real quick.
I'm not saying they're not vicious. I'm just saying they are domesticated. And it's a miracle of God that we domesticated wolves.
Yeah.
Like, we took one of our apex predators and we made it our little hunting buddy. And it's great. It makes me happy.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter. This topic.
How do we know it was wolves, not another canine?
Well,
Because
because all
DNA.
canines come from. So dogs
Modern
are domesticated, or all dogs are domesticated wolves.
Yeah, that little pug, that little chihuahua that Paris Hilton used to keep in her purse.
Used to be
that's
a
a
killer.
fucking wolf.
Used to be a killer.
He's still got it in his heart too.
But,
all chihuahuas do. Anyway, the
Like,
problem is
I would need like a remnant of a city.
Like,
I need
So-
something.
so
I
Göbekli
need
Tepe.
something.
Göbekli Tepe.
okay, hold on.
But even that doesn't even date to what you're talking about.
Yeah, it does.
So,
It's 12,000.
There's
It's 12,000
there's
years
no
old.
tools.
Yeah, there is.
This isn't Rome.
So-
No, we don't have any tools. I thought.
So,
I thought we had tools and we had biological matter. Like we had like pieces of cloth and goods and stuff and wood.
I thought we just had. Oh, you know what? I actually think we may have had stone tools,
Yeah.
which is about what we had thought.
to Garrett's credit, we didn't know how the Vikings navigated around the globe so efficiently until we found their compasses.
Oh, the sunstones.
Like they're still really accurate. And there's a certain
There's something to be said.
quartz
Yeah.
that is in clocks, and it's the most accurate clocks in the world are with these certain quartz, and we don't know what it is about these quartz, but they are the most accurate clocks we can make is with these quartz. So certain materials can give you better results in, say, navigating, clock making, stuff like that. So if you told me like, oh, we have these seafaring people who had, say, like the Viking sunstones or their compasses, I could believe that. It's not impossible. I'd need evidence. Like we thought the Viking compass was a myth until we found a ship.
So in 10,000
had one.
10,000 years, the ships are gone. Anything made of wood's gone. You might find nails.
But we have
Not-
we have Viking like cities in Canada. Like we have little villages. Like
But that
what the
is
fuck are those?
2,000 years.
Okay.
Not even that. Not
the Viking
even that.
age was what?
So like
800
The
AD?
it would have been the medieval ages in Europe was also the Viking age.
so what? So these people were just able to sail? They were just really good sailors?
Could have been, but the thing is, it's
Better
like
than the
But were they a global empire
maybe.
that colonized?
Yeah,
Why
I
did
mean,
no
so
one
colonization doesn't
Why
have to
has
mean
no-
war.
why has
the
it no one
population was
else-
a lot less.
Why has no one else
And
wrote
the-
about them?
Why has no? Well, so they do write about them. We just chalk it up to mythology.
Yeah.
So
Like that's the thing is like there are countless stories about ancient human civilizations or ancient demigod civilizations, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's just fake."
So show me in China, where there's a mythology of
Amaterasu.
these seafaring people just show up out of nowhere.
Well, to be fair, that's Japan, isn't it?
Is Amaterasu Japanese or
Yeah.
It's Far Eastern? Don't care. Far Eastern gave you. I win.
Yeah. But oddly enough, Japan, doesn't have a
Show me
flood myth.
Australian.
I will show you Australian motherfucker.
If
Aborigine?
Yes,
If
Aboriginal.
he shows me a mythology about the Aboriginals as seafaring people, I'll have to give him some sort of credit. That's a pretty substantial thing.
It's really not. Floods are a phenomenon across the world. It's not crazy to think that a bunch of superstitious primitives came up with a story to explain why their current god was angry at them and sent a flood to kill them.
No, I'm not talking about floods. I'm talking about like seafaring people arrive with boats.
Oh, the Aborigines probably would have. No, I can't remember because some of that feet, like in Indonesia, that water's only like 20 feet deep between some islands.
This is going to take too long, but I will find it for you. Because I know it's there. Because they have cave paintings of it. But I'm telling you, this isn't just a Greek or Egyptian thing. This is everywhere.
But the thing is, so like the flood legends across the world, air quotes.
But
are
it's not flood legends. It's people coming and teaching them stuff, and that explains why they went from zero to hero. Like it's not just the flood mythologies.
I feel like that is an oversimplification.
Oh, it is. I've only got an hour.
I guess so. But, like, what did these people just spawn out of the air? Like, where did these people come
Atlantis.
from?
That's what I'm
Where
trying
did
to
they
fucking
go?
tell you.
That's the thing. Like, we don't know where the
They died.
Where the fuck? How?
They fucking died. They're immortal.
Yeah, but how did they build this great big city?
Well, we built New York, and those people died. No one. How did they die? Well, son of a old age,
but
motherfucker.
New York City is still there. Like the city, the structure that they built.
But so is
still there.
Egypt. Egypt's still there, and it's been rebuilt over and over.
Right,
and
but
over.
but where the fuck is these guys?
Usurped by thousands of years of other people coming along and taking their empty shit.
Okay. You can't tell me. You're going to have to do better than that. You can't tell me that
I understand.
the whole thing...
Again, I'm not shitting on you for not believing, okay? I'm not. But I'm also not going to be shat on for believing.
You will and you will like it.
No. Do not pretend like these are equal positions.
These are in fact equal positions.
Show me
Atlantis.
How about this? Show me the capital city, and I will concede to you that maybe some seat fuckers were traveling around there going, moving on down Main Street and fucking up some people. Alright?
So I can't. Obviously I can't. If we found the capital city of Atlantis, we would be having a much different conversation where I would be telling you both to eat it.
I don't know.
But
no, if we find it, I don't want I want Ooga Booga. This is Atlantis. That's what I want.
I want an archway in front of the crumbled city that says Atlantis in English. That's what I fucking
Modern English. And it better have a truck fucking somewhere.
And if it's only ATLA, no.
And I just swear to
may
God,
as well be Atlantis.
I swear to God, if I go there, Jason Momoa better be there as well.
Oh, God. Okay. So, I guess we could get into the location now, because Nick wants...
Oh, now we're getting to the place that doesn't exist.
Of the capital
on a map.
Of the capital.
Where's Neverland?
Second star to the right. Didn't you want...
Second star to the right, in between the... Yeah.
Straight on till morning.
Respect
Fuck
to both of you for knowing that.
So there's a few proposed locations for the mythical city of Atlantis.
All are wrong. I say that there's one. What is it? The Eye...
The Eye of the Sahara? No. The Rakat structure.
I've seen that.
It's gotten a lot of publicity because that guy, Gorsetti, came on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he believes that's where Atlantis was.
When it disagrees with Garrett's point of view, it can't possibly be it.
No, I don't think so, because... So, Gorsetti's a little bit like me. He's a lot more well trained in especially ancient Egyptian mythology, but he's just an enthusiast. So, like, the people I believe on the location of Atlantis are the people like Graham Hancock or Randall Carlson.
Nutter Butters.
Okay, well, to be fair, Graham Hancock is nothing but an author.
He's a nutter
That's
butter.
true. That's true.
You know what I mean?
But Randall Carlson's not. Randall Carlson's a scientist.
Yeah, but he's not an archaeologist, right?
He's a
geologist.
Don't give me... No, that's fucking the crazy guy. Not the crazy guy, the crazy-looking guy.
Aren't these all people on Ancient Aliens?
Graham Hancock
so Graham
is the Ancient Aliens guy.
No. He's not the aliens dude.
Yeah,
that's
no.
fucking hard to pronounce name. Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Yeah, the guy I always love to make fun of Garrett with.
Aliens. God dang right.
Maybe
I actually don't believe in aliens. I think they were fallen angels from the Book of Enoch. But that's a different podcast.
I think you would convince more people of aliens.
I guess it's the same podcast. 3-hour podcast.
I'm gonna need more of this, though.
But,
it's fine.
So...
It tastes like piss.
Everyone here's over 21.
Yeah. So, I just gotta know. I mean... So Plato writes about this, and you're saying... I'm just trying to figure out why this belief is even necessary. Like, what... Where does this even come from?
Where'd you come from? Where'd you go?
What do you...
Is it... Are we just trying to find the kernel of truth behind mythologies?
Mm-hmm. I mean, so that's part of it. That's part of it. I would like to find the... If it exists, the physical city of Atlantis.
Okay, so I get that.
I think that would be huge.
I mean, we found...
It'd be like finding Troy in the 90s. Like
we found mythological cities. Troy was one of them. There was one that's off the coast of India that sunk. We found cities before that we thought were myths. So I get that. But come on.
Well, so if those exist, why couldn't Atlantis?
Because everyone... So I'll give you the doubt. I don't think Atlantis was as high tech as what Hollywood has made it out to be.
Well, no, for sure fucking not. Like, again, this is not the Disney Atlantis where they're riding around on giant rock dolphins that glow with crystals.
But you understand
Like,
that's a lot.
but here's the thing.
Anything else is a lot less fun.
Let's
It is a lot less fun.
let's say we find some sunken city off the coast of where the fuck ever, and it dates back. It's a pretty decently sized city, nothing like today, but maybe it could have held back. A couple, like 20,000 people.
Well, so we
then.
actually have the population of the capital city of Atlantis, which would have been about 1 million.
It's a decent amount of people for back then.
Yeah.
So fucking a lot of people.
I mean, for the capital of Sumer is approximately the same. I think the capital of Sumer was 1.5 million. Memphis in its heyday was like 3 million people.
Tennessee?
No, Memphis was the capital of Old Dynasty Egypt.
But here's the thing: the second we do find some underwater city, you guys are gonna be like, we were right, and therefore this empire scaled the globe, and they were fucking dolphins and aliens and all sorts of shit.
So I will for sure tell you that if we find
the
the physical city of Atlantis, none of the ancient astronaut theorists are going to come out of the woodwork, because most of the ancient astronaut theorists' concept of Atlantis is that it was a spaceship that the aliens came down from and could go underwater too. So if we find a physical city of Atlantis, that's gonna they thrive on the eccentric and the mystery.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So once you find the concrete, no one tells the myths about Troy and Helen of Troy. Well, I guess they do tell her about being the most beautiful, and they do tell the Iliad and the Odyssey. But
the beauty
you know
that
what I'm
lost
saying?
1,000 ships.
Right. I stand corrected by my
She was
own.
average looking.
I mean, really, she's probably ugly compared to modern standards.
It's kind of like Cleopatra. You ever seen what Cleopatra supposedly looked like?
Well,
She's not bad.
I mean, people were uglier back then. It's just how it is.
Judgmental.
It's, it is what it is. Selective breeding.
They didn't have hygiene back then.
They didn't have Botox injections. That's what it is. Or Instagram to show it
they
off.
were all just walking around with beard and hair like yours. Here are me and Wyatt trying to look all professional for this podcast, and then my hobo brother walks in.
Hey.
You started it.
Homeless.
I was trying to be...
Homeless. I have some dignity, sir. Mine's meth, not crack.
So what... Again, if we were to find it, I think it would be probably right where the Egyptians told Solon it would be.
Where is that?
Just off the coast of the strait, just beyond the Straits of Gibraltar.
Yeah,
Randall Carlson has a theory. There's an island chain there that was it was above water at the appropriate time period for Atlantis, and it is now below water. You just can't. So the problem is, in science, you need funding for expeditions. Underwater expeditions are especially pricey. And you can't, no one's going to go investigate a group of sunken islands for no reason. And if you tell them, I think Atlantis is there, you get laughed out of the fundraiser. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of part of the problem is people don't want to fund, no one wants to fund this kind of research. And that's what's really disappointing to me. If I was Batman, I would for sure be looking for Atlantis.
You know what people are going to say is I'm throwing money in a fire.
Yeah, but fucking Elon Musk. Fuck Mars, find Atlantis. Bill Gates.
He cured malaria. If you'd be careful here.
Okay, I was gonna say fuck malaria, but that's a lot of dead people. Fuck funding the Clintons. Go look for Atlantis.
And just like that, we take cover.
No one can see us in here.
I don't know that anyone cares. That's the thing, the buzz around Atlantis.
What happens if we find Atlantis?
It's just a story.
Yeah. You know how I would react?
It depends if all that's there is the big banner that says Atlantis. What if there is something there? What if there's historical writings that date back 12,000 years? We could the foundation of religion could be there. How civilization started, how old civilization really is.
I'm with you.
What destroyed them? What caused the collapse of the Bronze Age? So many questions could be answered if people just bothered to fucking look. It's like when they excavate in North America.
How much could you answer from finding a city?
No, I'm with Jerry here. You can find a lot through archaeological evidence.
Right.
I'm cool with that. But there's no point in,
It's a super big point.
But you can't go searching for fool's gold.
Why not? They spent centuries looking for El Dorado.
And they already found it.
And what did that end up?
Awesome! They found El Dorado. It's
No,
just
no,
a
no,
little
no.
bit underimpressive.
So they found El Dorado.
Exactly.
They spend tons of
And
money
then
looking
didn't
for.
believe it.
They spend tons of money looking for lost cities in the rainforest.
Yeah, no, well, that's because we have found some. So, like, when the Mayan... Is that the Mayans
We
who
found
died?
some sunken cities. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Because it was like a 12-year-old. He took a map of the Mayan cities, and then he looked at it and he was like, "Wait a second!" And he drew I think it's the Orion, as a matter of fact. And he took that and he overlaid it on their cities, and then he overlaid it on the Amazon. He's like, "All right, if I'm right, there should be like 3 more cities here, here, and here." And he's right.
Okay, well, one thing you gotta know
Phenomenal.
about astrology is that all of the drawings, like Orion's belt, yeah, it's all full of shit. They don't line up. Not at all. Didn't then, didn't now. It's complete
I think the
horseshit.
Big and Little Dipper line up.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, so why does the Mayans have Orion the hunter from Greek mythology? Like, so you could also, like, well, it's a Mayan hunter.
No.
Okay, but they, out of an infinite sky,
They just
picked
so
those
happened to.
6 stars.
They just so happened to pick the same stars everyone else was looking at.
Yeah. But,
Yeah, the only thing that would be consistent would be the sun and moon.
I would say the Big and Little Dipper. Those are pretty consistent. Like, it's a ladle. What's a ladle?
Yeah, but you're also looking at it in a very light polluted. So even out here, even at deer camp, there's a lot of light pollution
I still
because
see-
humans exist on the planet.
Yeah, but I still see the Little and Big Dipper.
That's true. But not in the context the Mayans would have seen the Big and Little Dipper.
That's a bigger Dipper.
No, there's
There's a-
just a lot in between
There's a huge dipper.
of tiny stars.
They're all probably extinguished.
not all of them, but a lot of them.
Most of them are galaxies, aren't they? They're not. They're
Yeah.
not stars. They're galaxies. Like,
It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But,
right.
But
They're
I don't know.
giant clusters of billions of stars.
Yeah.
So Atlantis is supposed to be off of the coast of Morocco.
Yeah, somewhere off the coast of Spain and Morocco. And there's Randall Carlson. There's a chain of islands there. Like I said, it fits the time frame. It would have been above water, and then would have been below water when Atlantis was supposedly sunk.
That's the description?
So you can't, without investigating, you can't find the city. So it's 13,000 years old. It's been underwater for, actually, no, it would have been underwater for about 12,000 years. So there's a lot of erosion that's gone on. There's a lot of just natural stuff that's happened. You're not going to be able to find the city from satellite photography.
Well, yeah.
Well,
Well, that doesn't mention how deep is it.
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know. But it would. I think it'd be really interesting. And all the only thing you've lost is a submarine ride, if you go and check it out.
Yeah, but that's also, it's not really that. I mean, depending on how deep the water is, it's a big physical toll. A lot of man
Not in a
effort.
submarine.
I don't think,
The
even
pressure.
if we could, like, get a time machine, go
Get
back
James
in time.
Cameron, he'll do it.
Like, if I offered Graham Hancock and maybe not Randall Carlson and Robert Schock, but if I offered Graham Hancock a ride in a time machine, we'd go back to wherever he wanted to go, I bet you wouldn't get in. Because at the end of the day, he makes a lot more money on the mystery and the lack of proof.
He does thrive on the mystery.
Well,
A lot of the ancient alien people do.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's
all of
that's
them.
that's really what I think more of this is they're like,
the what if.
Well, I also think that humans love a good mystery story.
oh,
Well,
absolutely.
like, what's better?
Well, humans love a good myth.
So what's better? The answer that may not be up to your expectations and now you're let down, or the myth where you can hope?
The answer,
No.
yes.
No.
Were there 7 foot? I don't care if the 7 foot tall giants that existed were Homo denisovans or half angel human hybrids.
What if they're neither? What if they're
I wanna know.
What if they're 97 feet
What
tall?
if they don't exist?
Well, so for sure, 7 foot humans did exist. They were just probably Homo denisovan.
What if they weren't 7 feet tall? What if they were just like 6'5"?
Still pretty impressive considering the average height back in the day would have been like 5'4".
Really?
Yeah. Malnourishment really wrecks your body, yo.
They may be 6'5".
Best time
Yeah,
to be alive.
They may be 7 foot tall, but they ain't arrow proof.
That's fair. That's fair. If we could
I'm
kill a
just saying-
tiger, we could kill those bastards.
I'm just saying, like, sometimes the mystery is a lot better than the answer.
I would agree with you. So, like, the the real historical Hercules is probably not as interesting as his myth. But I still want to know. Honestly, I think they found at least a Hercules' grave outside the city of Sparta, which he goes on to found the city of Sparta. So that's pretty. And I think there's even another grave next to him that was Megara, or not. It was his wife's real name. It's some Greek bullshit. But the real story of Hercules is probably less magical and mysterious than the myth that we get handed down. Just like the Epic of Gilgamesh. I have absolutely no doubt Gilgamesh existed. I have absolutely no doubt he probably had a really hairy brother. I've got a really hairy brother sitting right next to me. It's facts. Shit happens like that. Did he really, find immortality and then somehow still die? Probably not.
Sounds like you got gypped on the immortality.
Is he walking around the world right now? Probably not.
Okay, it's kind of like the saint we talked about,
but
immortal
not
saint?
Definitely not.
Who's the immortal saint we talked about?
Oh, the Count of Saint Germain.
Yeah, most likely bull.
Yeah, probably didn't find the.
Well, let's be honest.
Stone?
Let's be honest. Con artists have been around for probably all of time.
Oh yeah, con artists and whores.
And so it's not far to believe that. I mean, so Teddy Roosevelt was told piranhas were such vicious eaters that, they would eat you as soon as you stepped in the water. We know piranhas unless they're really hungry, they won't fuck with you.
Do we know that? Is it blood that triggers them?
Jeremy Wade got into a pool full of piranhas.
Jeremy Wade is fish god. He just told the piranhas, don't bite me.
Penn and Teller jumped into a hole.
Aren't they magicians?
Yeah, but they don't.
Fucking sorcery.
No, the thing is, they tell you they're gonna lie to your face. He jumped into a tub full of piranhas. Didn't mess with them. It's when you starve the piranhas and then feed them a goat that they start, eating the whole thing.
I'm just saying, I'm not risking that. That's
you could convince me the same thing of a tiger. I'm still not getting any cage.
What are the odds that swimming in the Amazon I get that little parasite that swims up your
urethra?
Yeah. There's a statistically zero chance that happens to me, and I'm still not going to go...
It's a little eel. Goes up your pee-pee hole.
And I'm still not getting in the fucking Amazon.
You ever heard of the dickfish?
That's not the dickfish?
No.
Well, God, what? Don't tell me. I don't
even want to know. We'll say that for... No. I mean it seriously, no.
I'll tell you after the podcast.
Okay. So assuming these legends are just that, mythology, what makes them stick around so long?
It's a good story.
No. So one of the next books I want to get is Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning, where he goes in depth about what keeps a story around. I don't know. For sure, no one alive today remembers a time when there was an ancient city that got demolished. And so, hang on.
Pompeii?
Because maybe that's it. So we know about Rome. The rise, this mighty empire, the fall. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just this romantic idea of a rising empire to its peak, and then the total, utter collapse.
Everyone likes a rise and fall story.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say everyone likes any kind of story.
No, we like being told.
Some it may not be your favorite. I'm not a rom-com guy, but
everyone likes a good movie. Everyone's got their favorite. Some people.
Yeah, I just wish Hollywood would do something original. But what do you think? Why do you think it's stuck around?
I have no idea.
Well, that's fucking useless.
Stupid people believe in.
Here I am trying to throw you a bone, and you're just like,
no.
Meh.
No, I have no idea why any of this stuff sticks around.
It's stupid.
There's no telling. And that's everything. That's why did some religions stick around? Why did others fail? I have no idea. Because for sure, some of these mythologies got lost over time.
Yeah, there's myths.
Yeah, I mean, how many? We've probably lost more Native American mythology. Well, I don't know, because even the widespread tribes, they had a pretty similar mythology. There's the weird ones where it's one thinks it crawled out of the world or crawled out of the universe on a turtle. And then there's one that says, the Thunderbird creates us.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, if you're in the same region, you pretty much all adhere to the same mythology.
Right.
So, but you're probably right. We probably have lost more mythology than we'll ever really remember.
And, how much of that is just made up? That's the thing. How much of it is wow, this guy killed a lion, and how much of it is somebody just made it the fuck up.
So, fish stories are old as time.
Well, and men are notorious for fish stories.
Exactly.
And we can't even tell inches right.
How are you gonna just throw the secrets out there?
Because people need to
How
know.
dare you speak such audacious fact on this podcast?
So, I think I've told you the everyone's heard of Theseus and the Bull and the Minotaur. No?
Yes.
No, Wyatt. Wyatt's trying not to tear up here. So
Sorry, buddy.
The general thing is Theseus he's from Athens. The Minotaur is from the
Minoans.
Minoans.
Crete.
And so every year Athens has to send a sacrifice to the Minotaur. So Theseus goes, he volunteers to kill the Minotaur. Kills it, comes back, Athens hates him for some reason. Don't know why. Well, we now know.
Because he fucked his mom.
Relatable. So
What?
understandable.
That's
Anyway.
at least a little
Anyway.
better.
So what we really now know is the Minoans loved bulls and they loved to eat Athens. They would go on raiding parties at least once a year.
Well,
Same
their
time.
bull was also their god, and they would
Yeah.
perform human sacrifice. Like, so the story of being sacrificed to the Minotaur is probably true. It's just you weren't being fed to a literal monster. You were being sacrificed on an altar to some...
So when they went back to where was Crete, where the Minoans were, they found a bunch of bull imagery, and they found stuff that they couldn't replicate, like architecture that they thought was beyond them.
Yeah, the Minoans would have been way ahead of Greece at this point.
And they heard the story of Theseus, which, if you don't know, the Iliad, the Odyssey, all those mythologies, the Jason and the Argonauts, takes place way, 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 way before ancient Greece. It takes place between Mycenaean Greece, which is when the Minoans were around.
Yep.
And it's basically what we think of now is the Minoans were the powerhouse of the area. And every year...
Because they probably were.
From what we have of... What we kind of know is the Minoans would sack, especially Athens, because it was the closest area, at least once a year. And they would take people, and it's heavily implied that they cannibalized them. And we know at some point Athens rose up and defeated the Minoans in a single battle, and that's where we think Theseus beats the Minotaur. Is where the mythology comes from. Now, what sounds better? A guy being a half-bull hybrid in a labyrinth? Or just Athens finally beating the big bully on the block?
Well,
What sounds better to people?
We know the Minoans were a very powerful civilization. Because, so, what makes... To me, when I hear, like, Egypt paid tribute to you, like ancient Egypt, that's what made you a powerhouse. Because if Egypt was paying taxes to you, you were the big dog on the block, and Minoans got taxes from Egypt. So,
they're a lot of historians think the big powerhouse of the Bronze Age.
mm-hmm.
They are the baddest of the bad. You don't mess with the Minoans. And then one day
there's a solid
Athens
argument to be
beats
made. There's a solid argument to be made that the Minoans were actually the inspiration for Plato's Atlantis, and even the Egyptian Atlantis. Like, we may have already found Atlantis.
It's an island.
They worshipped Poseidon. Like, Poseidon was their prime. Like, so Zeus is the king of the gods for most Greeks. Not in Minos.
They were also seafaring. They were seafaring.
They had colonies all over the Mediterranean.
They were really good at it, and they disappeared after the Bronze Age.
I was going to save this for last because it's the most disappointing and also the most plausible.
The Minoans are what is actually the best evidence for Atlantis.
So far, the biggest evidence for Atlantis is people who occupied the island of Crete during the Bronze Age.
They were the powerhouse. They were
most likely the inspiration for Atlantis.
No one wanted to mess with them. No one wanted to fight them. And they, in a sense, had an empire over all of Greece.
Over all of Greece, over most of the Mediterranean.
Yeah. And they
so
were
not all of Egypt, but if you were on the coastline of the Mediterranean, you paid homage to the fucking Minoans.
If you're like me, I believe they were the sea people thought of during the Bronze Age, or the Minoans.
Yeah, but they collapsed too, though. That's the problem.
The Minoans actually got hit the hardest because they were the biggest bronze traders.
That's true. It could be like a famine, and then they go out and raid everybody else to extinction, and then they still can't support their own population.
Well, you go out for a raid, and you come back, and your whole island's dead.
Well, you gotta crush all my dreams, Nick.
We're being realistic here, man.
They were. If you want like just logical Garrett and not fun Garrett,
Yeah.
the Minoans were probably the inspiration for Plato and the Egyptians, Atlantis.
Well before Plato. Well before Homer.
Like I said, if you just look up Crete and like Minoan civilization architecture, it really is like Roman level technology in the Bronze Age. It's phenomenal, and to think like while the Greeks, the hyper intelligent philosophical Greeks, were still stacking rocks, like the Minoans were building
pillars. They're building like the Acropolis.
It's phenomenal.
They're
it really
building,
is.
And I don't want to be a party pooper, but someone has to. That's Atlantis. I'm sorry. In my mind,
Purely logical Garrett, you're probably right. It's just more fun to think that we still haven't found it yet.
crab people. I swear, Garrett, if we ever find that island you're talking about, the little chain of islands, we go down there and there's a full city with crab people, I'm gonna laugh.
That's the only thing about the Minoans is they didn't call themselves Atlantean. Like,
no.
But there's a lot of similarities.
Mm.
So, Wyatt, wrapping up thoughts.
No, pretty much it.
Wyatt's done.
So do you believe the most in the Minoans?
Well, the Minoans seem like they were definitely real.
They are.
For sure.
We know the Minoans were real.
That's about it.
Nope. Nick, you already shit on my idea enough, so you can shut the fuck up. So finally got you an Atlantis podcast, guys. Promised at the beginning of the year.
Wait, we forgot. Atlantis is actually in Scotland, and Bigfoot rides Nessie.
Oh yeah.
Atlantean
Bigfoot
is confirmed.
Yes.
By
So
me.
if anyone doubts you, you tell them you heard it here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.